If you are new to learning the piano and you want to be able to sight read, then you need a very clear understanding of note values. So notes have many different faces, and each note appearance, each different sort of looking note has a different value attached to it. And the value of the note simply means how long you're going to hold it down when you play it. So you want to memorize note values very early on. I'm going to make this super simple for you. I'm going to explain it all, draw it all out, and then I want to give you some ways you can practice this at home so you can get really comfortable with rhythm concepts. So here we go. The first note that I'm going to teach you is the quarter note. I have terrible writing, but I'll try to be neat for you. So the quarter note is just a colored in circle with a stem. So that equals 1 beat. So if I were to draw 4 quarter notes. I'm trying to make them all the same, guys, but it's harder than it looks. It would be counted or clapped like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So pretty easy. The next note is called the half note. Now the half note looks almost like the quarter note, but it's not colored in. So it's just a circle with a line like that. And a half note equals 2 beats. So I'm going to draw 2 half notes here, just like this. And if you were to clap this or count it, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the word half note is a 2-syllable word, so I find it really easy to go half note, half note. So you hold each of those half notes for 2 counts. Now here's a cool little piece of information. Each half note could fit 2 quarter notes, right? Because 2 quarters put together makes a half. So you can see how this kind of funnels into each other. The next note I'm going to show you is the whole note. So this one's pretty straightforward. It looks like a circle. You can maybe think of it as like a donut hole or a hole. And it equals 4 beats. So that's an entire measure of music. If you have a whole note here, you're going to count it like this. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to say great big whole note because it's got 4 syllables and it helps me to remember the value. So you could count it like this. Great big whole note. 1 clap and 4 beats. And we could fit 2 half notes into 1 whole note or 4 quarter notes into 1 whole note. So that's like the most basic, simple look at rhythm. We have more note values that we can add on to this. So let's take a look at one of my favorites. This guy is called the 8th note. Now, it's really, really fun to draw. It's a really common one, you know, when you're sort of doodling notes. Colored in like a quarter, but it's got a little stem like that. And this little guy equals 1/2 of a beat. So that can get complicated. So we often see 8th notes in groups of 2. So when you put 8th notes beside each other, instead of having their little stems point down like this, I'm going to show you this right here. Instead of those downward pointing stems, we actually connect them like this. We can erase those stems, and that's what you get. So you get 2 notes that put side by side equal 1. So they're grouped together in groups, which makes it much easier to count and to read. So 8th notes are often counted like this, 1 and, because that breaks those ones into half so you can count single 8th notes or 8th notes together. So I'm going to do a group of 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. Notice I have 8 notes. So we count it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this is 1 beat, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So all of these guys together equal a whole note or 4 beats, 4 quarters. So I hope you're tracking with me so far. 8th notes are really fun to count. You'll often hear them counted T-T, so you could go T, 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 if that makes it any easier for you. Now we get to the real fun stuff. We're going to do a couple more complicated notes before we finish here. So what we have here, we're going to use a dot, a dotted half note. So we're going to take a half note and we are going to put a dot beside it. So we've got a dotted half note. Now, anytime you add a dot beside a note, it adds half the value of the note it's beside to the note. So a half note equals 2. Half of 2 is 1, so we're going to add that, giving us a note that equals 3. A half note dot equals 3 beats. So you could count it half note dot. See, I just called it a half note dot there. Its grown-up name is a dotted half note. But if you say half note dot, you get those 3 syllables, which helps you to remember the value of the note. So that's how I count my dotted half notes now. Half note dot, or 1, 2, 3. So a dotted half note is a lot of fun. Finally, this is the last one. It's maybe one of the more complicated ones, but when you break it down this way, I find that it makes the most sense. So what it's called is a dotted quarter note. And it sounds simple. All we need is this lovely little quarter note guy here. We're going to put a dot beside him, but we need to figure out the value. So a quarter note equals 1. We're going to add half the value of that 1 to the note. So we're going to add half of 1, which is half. So now we have a note that equals 1 and a half beats. And that's kind of something you can't leave alone. You have to complete it. So we're going to find something else that we've learned in here that equals a half a beat, our friend the 8th note, and we're going to use that little lonesome 8th note to complete the value. So when you see a dotted quarter note, you'll almost always have an 8th note in the same measure. So we've got a full beat here for the quarter, a half beat here, and then this little guy here is also a half a beat. So together, this would equal 2. So it sounds like this, 1 and 2 and. Another way you could count that, which again, it's silly, I use this in my kid classes, but I find it really helpful. I call the quarter note a ta, and then I call the dot a dot, and then I call that 8th a t. So I go ta dot t. So whatever way you want to look at it, go for it. This is an overview on note values, what the notes equal. Write these down on a piece of paper and see how many of them that you can memorize. Make little combinations of the different note values and practice clapping them. It's really, really going to help you as you learn to sight read and play. So enjoy this lesson and we'll see you around.